Before visiting Shenzhen, we had a plan. Learn some Chinese, try an autonomous taxi, experience drone food delivery, prepare for every possible problem. 2 days later, we realized that most of our preparation had been completely useless. And somehow, that made us want to spend 3 weeks traveling across China. Shenzhen was our first real stop in mainland China. We arrived with assumptions. Some turned out to be correct, most did not. So these are the lessons we'd take into our next trip. Before arriving, we were slightly worried. What if the payment apps didn't work? What if we couldn't order food? What if we accidentally ordered 50 dumplings and couldn't explain ourselves? So we booked a club room. It was excellent. The food was great, the staff were great, the view was great, the emergency never happened. We essentially built ourselves a very comfortable panic room. As it turned out, Shenzhen wasn't nearly as intimidating as we had imagined. We simply explored the city. We found great drinks, or whatever this was. We discovered bakeries. That was probably our biggest mistake. And somehow ordering food turned out to be much easier than we'd expected. Looking back, the club lounge wasn't really our backup plan. It was simply a very comfortable confidence boost. Before the trip, we tried learning some Chinese. We started confidently. This worked. Everything after that became considerably less successful. Every conversation followed the same pattern. We would say one carefully rehearsed sentence, the other person would answer, then the entire plan collapsed. Fortunately, translation apps turned out to be much more talented than we were. One mistake we made before arriving was assuming Shenzhen would feel similar to Hong Kong. It doesn't. Hong Kong feels very international. Shenzhen feels much more like mainland China, which sounds obvious because it is obvious. Yet somehow we still underestimated the difference. One thing we worried about unnecessarily was payment. We even exchanged cash in Hong Kong beforehand. The cash helped us exactly once, during our first taxi ride. After that, almost everything was paid through apps. We had prepared for a financial crisis. Instead, we mostly pressed buttons. At customs, a security officer stopped me. This is never an encouraging start. The scanner had detected a large collections of coins in my luggage. The problem was that we had already traveled through several countries. I had simply kept the coins from all of them. Apparently, carrying 5 nations worth of loose change makes you look more interesting than you intended. Our flight to Singapore was heavily delayed. Very heavily delayed. Information was limited. We didn't really know what was happening. We didn't know when we'd leave. My wife doesn't particularly enjoy flight uncertainty, which meant the atmosphere was not entirely relaxed. I decided this was not the ideal moment to explain Chinese aviation statistics. We originally treated Shenzhen as a short stop. 2 days, quick visit, see the highlights, move on. And technically that worked, but it never felt like enough. Shenzhen wasn't the place we expected, which turned out to be exactly why we wanted more time there. The biggest lesson was probably this: I became slightly obsessed with experiencing the future. Before the trip, I had read about autonomous taxis, drone deliveries, all the futuristic things Shenzhen is famous for. I was determined to try them.
Naja, ganz von alleine würdest du es nicht finden.
Shenzhen had other ideas. As it turns out, some of these services are not quite designed for a random tourist who arrived 2 days ago. I spent hours researching, registering, trying apps, reading instructions. My wife spent those same hours developing increasingly strong opinions about this project. In the end, we learned something useful. If you want to experience the cutting edge of China, you probably need more preparation than we had.
Und da in den zweiten Stock fahren.
Despite all of this, Shenzhen became one of the biggest surprises of the trip. We arrived curious, we left wanting more. Which is probably why our next trip to China won't be 2 days. Let's see what could possibly go wrong.
I got my head in the clouds, so